Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today we have a brand new video where we are covering AHSOKA Season 2, my theories, my predictions, what I think about the concept of a Season 2 for that show, and the new Star Wars comic series that is going to be continuing their flagship, I guess, massive series that they've had going on for almost 10 years. Actually, yeah, 10 years now. So, we'll start off with AHSOKA and then go into the comics. But first off with AHSOKA Season 2. We have heard a lot of things that I may have touched on previous videos, but maybe not. So supposedly, Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, and Ariana Greenblatt are going to be in AHSOKA Season 2. So what does that infer? That infers a flashback. I highly doubt that we are going back to the world between worlds, because that would be just super redundant. And I don't see how that could make sense. Like, AHSOKA already went on her journey to, rediscover herself and learn to live, that whole thing. So I really don't see a way that we'd end back up in there unless something really, really weird and unexplainable happens on Peredia. I don't see that happening. So I really think it has to be a flashback that will somehow relate to Ahsoka training Sabine. It's going to be like this, kind of like in what's it called, Kenobi, when their fight kind of reflected what was actually going on in the present. It's going to be something like that, probably, hopefully less cut up, or a better example in a non-crap thing, in Jedi Fallen Order, when Cal Kestis is training, rediscovering his Jedi powers, what's it called? He, gets these flashbacks of his master training him and everything. And I really feel like that's kind of how things are going to go. Like, it's going to be like a flashback that relates to the story, and whatever arc the characters are going on. Film-wise, I really think that would be the smarter decision too, not to just randomly go back to the world between worlds. I think what would be cooler, and something, this is kind of outrageous, and I know it would be negatively received by critics, but what would be awesome is if they did this half and half thing, where we saw a new part of the Clone Wars and a new part, obviously the continuation of Ahsoka's journey, and it would be like half the show would be in Clone Wars and half the show would be in present, and they would exactly mirror each other. And it would be like this cool thing of seeing the past the present reflect the past and vice versa, and see how history repeats itself. I feel like that would be really interesting to see too. And just see kind of, something relating to the present in the past with the characters we love. I think that would be a cool approach too. But with all this being said, and flashbacks and whatever, there is still the plot of Baylan Skoll, finding, I guess not finding, but like us discovering what Baylan Skoll's mission is. Like, what is he looking for? What is he searching for exactly? That's really, like, I feel like the main intent of Ahsoka Season 2. I don't really care about what Ahsoka and Sabine do at all. Like, I'd honestly rather them have done just like a Baylan Skoll, like, spin-off, where it's literally just about him and his mission and his past and his character. That would be way more interesting. but of course, kind of like a Book of Boba Fett situation, where Book of Boba Fett was clearly just like a continuation of Mando, but it should have been more focused on Boba. So it's like if they did that right with Balin, where it was majority Balin, then I'd be into that way more. And obviously that would mean we probably wouldn't get flashbacks or whatever, but if that was really the primary subject of the story, that would be the better approach. So I don't really know what the deal is here. If it's like Ahsoka and Sabine tracking Balin down, them surviving, like we have no clue on where this season's going narratively. But with, I guess, and by the way, Hayden is getting a big role in season 2, apparently. So with that, with the flashbacks, that does add a layer of to the mix of the season, like of what we could possibly get. That definitely adds something into the brew, and I don't know what exactly, how that's going to really work out, And I told you guys my theories. I really think it's going to be a narrative thing. Is it necessary to have flashbacks or whatever in this scenario? No. Would it be necessary to have Hayden Christensen guide Ahsoka throughout Peredia? Yes, it would, because that planet is very force heavy, and Ahsoka's gonna need help. She is not the know-it-all. She doesn't know everything about the Force clearly and how to train arrogant Padawans. And, Anakin's, I think, is the perfect teacher for that, because he himself was, kind of hot-headed. And so was Ahsoka. So I feel like Anakin would kind of have to reel her in sometimes and be like, that was you sometimes. How did I approach that? I feel like he really does have to be present for her to get out of that situation at all. I feel like it would be really weird for her to just know her ins and outs and just know how everything works. Like, no. Which would mean Hayden in Force Ghost form. Yeah, now physically, like we saw him in physical form in Ahsoka Season 1, in a necessary, not flashback, but World Between Worlds sequence, that Ahsoka would never have developed if it weren't for that sequence. And that's what people don't understand. It wasn't just a fan service thing. Like, Ahsoka's character was trapped in this state of misery, and somehow that had to be broken, and there was no way it could be broken in the physical universe. Therefore, she had to kind of go to Force multiverse or Force heaven. We don't even know what the World Between Worlds is. So whatever that is, to fix herself up spiritually, for her to, finish her mission the right way. So, with that said, I'm very curious to how they will make the flashbacks and everything necessary to the overall plot in Season 2. Like, what situation will Ahsoka get in or be in to need to go back to that wisdom, and that's what's really most important. And that's how you end up not in an Endgame situation, where Endgame was just, they put themselves in a hole with Infinity War, right? And Infinity War is a beautiful film. I think that's one of the best superhero films ever made, right? I think one of the best films ever made narratively that I've seen. It's just so complex with all those characters, like, meticulously balanced out, and it's completely unpredictable and turns you at every second. You're like, what the hell? This is happening. This is... Besides the point. Then Endgame comes and just reverses everything the first movie did made none of that even matter, you know, and then it's like, it's just like an emotional uh trip through the past of the MCU. That's the point of it, you know. It's like a legacy movie. It's not a continuation. It's not a real part 2, you know, cuz I feel like a real part 2 would have found some way to get through that, you know, that would have been higher stakes, more complex, more interesting, you know, because that whole time heist sequence is not exciting, you know. It's very much just a nostalgia trip. Really, that's all it is. There's no other way to put it, you know. It's just a nostalgia trip. And I really liked Endgame at first, and then, you know, as I rewatched it a couple more times, it's like, they completely wasted Iron Man, in my opinion. I feel like he had way more to do in the MCU, and they wasted him because he got too expensive. Same with Captain America, um, Chris Evans, you know, and Black Widow. Like, just wasted those characters like they were fucking nothing. And then the whole time heist sequence is lame. Then once you get to the battle for Earth, then you're like, oh shit, this is epic, you know? But before that, it is just like really not exciting for a finale of a, you know, big brand. I don't know. It's just, I'm not a massive Endgame fan. I like it, sort of, you know, but I'm not like crazy Endgame hype beast. Like, no. My point being with that is I'm afraid that that's kind of what's going to happen here, where it's just going to be randomly thrown in or randomly at the beginning of an episode without tying in directly. And that's my worry. It's like, it has to make sense and it has to tie in. And if you want to do this, just make a Clone Wars miniseries that's live action. You know, if that's what you want to do, don't go halfway, go all the way. You know, don't do the half stuff, because it never turns out well. You know, and that's the thing with Book of Boba Fett. It should have just been him getting out of the Sarlacc and everything, or him after Mando. It should not have been both. And that when they tried to do both, it sucked. You know, it's like, you can't do that, man. I mean, if you were a talented filmmaker, you probably could, but these guys aren't. So you have to take that into account. You know, these guys aren't going to really narratively have the ability to do that. So you have to dumb everything down. So it's like, I don't know how Dave is going to pull that off. But if he does, I am all here for it. I will love every second of it. Even if it doesn't really make sense, I don't really care. I'm getting Clone Wars flashbacks with Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, and young Ahsoka. Like, I don't care, dude. You know, like, at that point, who cares? But will I acknowledge in my reviews on here that it makes no sense? Yeah. But will I say, fuck it, who cares? Yeah, I will too, you know? Because, you know, that's what I said about the, what's it called? Yeah, it was in Book of Boba when it switched over to Luke and Mando. I was the exact same thing. Does it make sense for the narrative of the show? No. But do I care? Hell no. Because those 2 episodes were some of the best Mando episodes out of all of them. And that was just hilarious that they were thrown in the Book of Boba Fett. Because I was not caring about that show at all. And then that happened. I was like, dude, just do this. Fine. Make a show about Mando. Make it. What the fuck? Like, make Mando season 3, but him just being a solo bounty hunter again. That's sick. And that's what they're doing in Mando and Grogu. And I'm like, thank the Lord, we're getting that action again, which is great. And I'm, you know, that's one other thing. I already covered it, but I'm very curious and keen to how that will turn out. Because honestly, that could go in so many ways with the premise we got. It could go in 1,000 directions. So, you know, I'm curious to see how that's going to turn out. You know, people are freaking out too early, I think, and we got to just wait, get more info on how present the Empire's going to be and all that, and then we'll be able to determine if it's just a Saturday TV special or if it means something. You know, it's just we have to wait. And even if it's a Saturday TV special, it might be just really awesome and I won't care. Again, does it narratively make sense? No. But do I care, right? It'll be that same kind of scenario. Possibly. We'll see. But yeah, that's kind of what I feel like. That's the only things I really care about in Ahsoka Season 2 is these sequences, whether they're flashback or whatever the hell, they're done right and they make sense. Anakin is done right, makes sense, and is heavily present. And Balin's journey is freaking incredible. You know, those are the only three things I care about in Ahsoka Season 2. I don't care about Ahsoka and Sabine. You know, and that's sad because I used to care about her, so I don't care about her anymore because I feel like her arc is just done now. Like, it's finished. I don't know what, like, this is where we are dragging on a character. Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, you know, not that they're comparable at all, but, you know, an example of killing a character off too early would be right there, you know. But Ahsoka, like, her arc is just so finished at this point that, like, not even arc, just potential of her, like, being involved in big events, like, it's just done. Like, what is the point of keeping her around? Like, and she has to die canonically, you know, because we hear her voice in 9. And if Dave pulls a, like, oh, she's in meditation saying all that crap, that's ridiculous. You know, it's like, so, you know, every other one of those Jedi had to die, and then she can just still be alive while doing it. You know, that's BS. And I've talked about that too. So she has to die soon. Like, I'm sorry, she does. You know, it's ridiculous that she's still around. Same with the Rebels crew. Like, there is no way you're telling me the Rebels crew will still be around during the sequel trilogy and never show up or help at all. It's like, sure, we get the ghost in episode 9. Great. So Hera helped the Resistance in 9. But it's like, all those other people have to be involved or dead. Right? Like, or completely lost and completely unreachable, you know? It's like, you cannot put them back and then just expect us to be like, oh yeah, they're chilling, sipping iced teas while the entire New Republic got blown to smithereens. Like, dude, what? Like, sorry to all those Rebels fans, well, and the TikTok people who are obsessed with Rebels characters for no reason. They gotta die, dude. They all gotta die. Same with the Bad Batch. They all gotta die. And all those Order 66 survivors all gotta die at some point. Because it is ridiculous. The amount of Rebels that have been around during the original trilogy but not helped out with the main fight is ridiculous. The amount of Order 66 survivors we've had that have just been chilling during this whole period of time doesn't make sense. You know, it's like things have to make sense. You cannot have 60 Order 66 survivors running around the galaxy. Then it's like, what is the impact of that event? Like, if you still have 60 Jedi around, then it just diminishes the whole impact of Episode 3. And that is why in Legends, Order 66 is a real horrific, catastrophic event that has no good side to it. And, oh, at least these guys survived. At least, these clones are still good. You know, like, no. It was a pinnacle turning point in the galaxy, and that is how that event is. That is the point of where the trilogy switch, the fight switches, is that moment. It's like the peak turning point in Star Wars, And you cannot have 60 Jedi running around doing nothing in that period of time. That's ridiculous. Which is why in Legends, in real Star Wars, there are not 60 Jedi running around. And the ones who did survive, were hunted down by Darth Vader and slaughtered in 3 seconds. That is how it should be. Not, he's just avoiding Darth Vader at all costs. No, Vader's whole thing, him and the Inquisitors, their at first primary mission was to get the remaining Jedi, hunt them down and destroy them. And then, of course, Vader had the, whole thing with Obi-Wan too, specifically. But that was their whole mission during that period of time, was to hunt the remaining Jedi down and kill them. And the Inquisitorius and Legends were brutal and crazy. The ones in canon are useless. They're just like stormtroopers with lightsabers. Like, I could defeat a canon Inquisitor. Like, they are so weak and stupid and pointless. Like, it's honestly ridiculous that they even exist in canon. It's like, what's the point? They're just like there to be a little cooler than a stormtrooper. And then they survive past episode 6. It's like, what are we doing with this surviving thing? Like, you have to kill characters off sometimes. And it might suck, but you do. And it's like, Marvel, I feel like, ends or kills characters' stories way too much. Where Star Wars is the opposite. Canon Star Wars, where it's just like, everyone's gonna live forever. It's like, no. Everyone's gonna come back. No. It's like, I don't understand. And now Cad Bane in Book of Boba, how we think he's still alive, and they've inferred to it in the books. He got stabbed through the chest with a Gatterfy stick, and like, he's still breathing. And he should not have lost that fight that easily either. Especially Boba's slow and old. Cad Bane is old too, but still a lot more agile than Boba, I feel like, at that time. Should not have even died. That's one example where, like, bro, what are you doing? That was just, don't bring him back then, like, have him die earlier at that point. Like, it's just, have him die, and in the original deleted scene for, I think it was Clone Wars, the original Clone Wars Season 7, where Boba and Cad got in a Western-style standoff, and Boba killed him. They both hit each other. That's how Boba got the dent on his helmet. But Cad Bane was dead. That's how it should have ended, right there. We did not need to retcon that and go back and do this whole thing where now Cad Bane survived and has a little piece of metal on his head. You were shot in the head. Like, I understand Star Wars is not scientifically realistic, and that's fine. And I love that that's what I love about Star Wars. Is you're not like, the space calculations on here. It's like, you can do whatever you want in that sense. But when it comes to just general concept of living human beings, like, if you are hit in the head with a projectile and pierced through the brain, you will die. Like, that's where it's ridiculous. It scratched his head. No, it didn't. It's like, why are we trying to do this here? It doesn't, that's ridiculous, but, that's what these people want to do. So they gave him the little piece of metal and called it a day. It's like, well, what are we doing, guys? They really shock me with how stupid they are sometimes, all the time, for that matter. It's just like common sense, things that, like, you just need to semi-understand what's going on to avoid a lot of these mistakes, and they just don't. They're like, it's okay, it's fine. I don't get it, dude. Like, I really don't. But yeah, like, you cannot have Ahsoka alive during the sequels, have her never do a thing. That is stupid. And you can't say with her, like, they really have to be stuck on Peredia, or else this is just insane. Like, she can't leave again, but then she's gonna have to for the, big Dave Filoni Mandoverse movie that's happening. She's going to be in it. I already know, because he can't make anything without her. So it's like, this wouldn't make sense then, you know? And by the time, yeah, like, she just has to die in that movie. Like, I swear, it's either in Ahsoka season 2 or in that film where she is going to have to canonically perish, or else that's just another one of the 8 million sequel trilogy inconsistencies. You know, it's like, you really are just adding to the issue at that point. Right? Like, Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader is the greatest character of all time, in my opinion. I don't think there is any character on Earth with that level of attention to detail and character development from day one to his death. You know, like, it is just unparalleled. And not even to his death till now, you know, like, they keep, you know, he showed up in Ahsoka and we saw a different side of him we hadn't seen before. We saw him as the fully complete hero, you know, in that form. We saw him for a second in Jedi, but we really got to see him interact with someone, and, you know, how he's kind of the master of the world between worlds, and he has the ability to control it, and he understands it. He is like the father in that sense, you know? And that's really cool. But look, he died. You know, he perished. And it's like, that's the greatest character of all time. Is he died way early on. In 83, we established he died. So it's like, at some point, you know, all those characters are going to have to die, because he was a human being, you know? And he was killed pretty early on in Star Wars, and it's still fine. Like, you can go back and do stuff, you can do comics, books, whatever. That doesn't ruin their character. It's like, is he just unable to do anything back in time? Or, you know, like, what is the deal with Ahsoka that she needs to be around forever? You could even do world between worlds crap, you know, like, killing a character off doesn't mean you're done with them in Star Wars, because Star Wars isn't like Marvel, where it's just a continuous timeline. Star Wars, you can go back, you can go forward, you can go way back, way forward. Like, that's just how Star Wars works, which I love the versatility of Star Wars in that sense. You're not constricted to anything, you know? So she has to die. And when it comes to, I know I haven't spoken about Shin Ha-Ti yet. I don't care about her. I don't care what happens to her. I don't think she's essential to the story. And I think all she'll do really is drag the story on, you know, because that's not the point of this season. Like, they don't care what happens to Shin, because she's a nobody. Like, who cares? You know, like, Shin is like, she was just Balin's apprentice. Balin let her go because he knew that she wasn't really vibing with him. And, you know, I just assume she's chilling on Peredia. Who cares? She's not a major essential character of the plot. She could be alive or dead. Star Wars wouldn't change. You know, like, she is a who cares character. But when you set Balin up the way they set Balin up, you have to continue to explore that character. Shin just kind of left and raised her saber up. It's like, all right. Is she going to start like a clan on Peredia? Like, what's her name? The bald lady in Deadpool and Wolverine, you know, did on in The Void, you know? Is that kind of the deal? Because if that's the deal, fine. Then she'll just be like this. I guess she'll own Peredia because no one else does. She'll work with the turtle people, you know? It's like, great, that's her role. Who cares? You know? We don't even need to. Now, if we ever go back to Peredia, then of course she'll be present again. But I feel like season 2 should be Ahsoka. Well, I'm just saying that because it's, you know, her show. Ahsoka, Anakin, Balin. That's it. Ahsoka season 2. It's all that matters. Yeah, so that's what I think is going to happen with Ahsoka season 2. That's what I want to see. But obviously, we have to keep into account. No one at Lucasfilm now knows what they're doing. I hope Dave Filoni's writing has expansively improved since season 1. You know, I really hope it has. or else we are cooked. We are like so cooked because this is going way deeper into the Force, and Dave, thought that Sabine should be able to push someone across the width of a Star Destroyer underbelly hangar bay, which is massive. And yeah, that was really dumb. Didn't make sense. So I hope that he's, done a little more research, got himself more into the tune again, and, talked to George a bit. And if that's the case, then we'll be fine. But if he hasn't, we are screwed. So I'm very 50-50 on Ahsoka Season 2. I'm like, if you're going to ruin it with the characters you have in it, just don't make it, But if you're going to do a good job, then it'll be up there for Disney Star Wars products, So, yeah. I remember when those people were like, oh, Ahsoka's the best Star Wars since 2005. Oh, God. No, it's not. Are you forgetting Star Wars The Clone Wars? Like, are we this stupid? Yeah, that the thing you also claim to love so much, it's like, yeah, you'd acknowledge its existence, if you cared about it so much. Oh, but I meant live action. Yeah, sure, bud. Sure. Anyways, next topic is the continuation of the flagship series of Star Wars is getting its next refresh. Every 5 years it refreshes. Its last refresh is in 2020, and its first edition was in 2015. 2015 took place between episodes 4 and 5. 2020 took place between episodes 5 and 6. And 2025 takes place between, after episode 6. Episode 7 doesn't exist in my mind, but it has been leading to the sequels already. So, between episode 6 and 7. Between episode 6 and The Force Awakens. Between episode 6 and Not Real Star Wars. But yeah, so that's when it will take place. They are obsessed with this era. Obsessed with it. Because they're scared to actually have to, listen to the rules of George's eras, the stuff happening between George's movies. So they're too scared of that, so they jump before or ahead every time with everything. And when they try to fit something in between, they screw it up. So, since they're actually publishing-wise, that's not true, because they did Star Wars Brotherhood, and there are probably a couple other novels that were pretty good. Master and Apprentice was canon, and that was really, really strong. There was another one, I feel like, that was canon and that was really good, but I forgot. But there have been a few that have been pretty solid that have been in between, so I guess in this matter, that doesn't apply. That's only to their movies and shows, which they're unable of doing anything in between George's movie. But yeah, publishing-wise, they've been super obsessed with this era too, recently. And I don't know why, but they're doing a Poe series, they're doing a Kylo Ren series, they're doing this, like everything's over there. And it's like, I'm actually somewhat looking forward to the Kylo one, because I think he's an interesting character, and that they can now explore him more without Kathleen Kennedy scowling down and needing him to be weaker so Rey can be stronger. Like, he can do stuff, and I with that too, they can't screw up any of Luke's stuff even more than they already have too. So that's going to be interesting. I'm very curious to how that's going to turn out. But if they stay away from the Luke stuff and, general plot of Star Wars, and they do kind of personal missions for Kylo's development, that'll be really good. So I hope that turns out well. I really do. But yeah, like why would you do a comic series on Poe Dameron? Like, no one cares, Yeah, so that's weird. And this New Republic series, I just don't trust them with their flagship anymore. It was good in 2015. Actually, I'd say it was okay in 2015. 2020 ruined it completely. Um, the infamous Luke yellow lightsaber trope that they were obsessed with. Luke blaming the weapon for terrible things it's done, the stupid DEI leftist anti-weapon BS, typical of Disney, was ridiculous. He finds his father's lightsaber and then just throws it away. Like, what are we doing, guys, at that point? That's ridiculous. Yeah, he never would have done that. So they basically treated him the same as Rey in that instance, which is insane. I don't know how they could have done that. It's like, yeah, that was atrocious. And then the plot of that series was just super plain out boring and lame. So that's always great. But we don't have a lot of details. It's just, then they did their Battle of Jakku series randomly that I thought was going to be really good and really interesting because it had, that one villain from Star Wars Uprising, the mobile game from 2014. And that went nowhere, and the plot went nowhere, and it was dry as sand. And then Luke fought a female Inquisitor that survived the, fall of the Empire. Same stupid Survivor thing. He crushes her, destroys her, very quickly, which was good, and I was proud of them for doing that, but, yeah, overall, the series was just lame, boring, and dry, so that's my expectation going into this one, because I'm like, if they screwed that one up and this is the same group of writers, then they'll screw this one up, right? Like, logistically, it's probably not going to be good, and they're probably going to push their stupid new characters again, and just, they're obsessed with their original characters. It's like George has so many characters for you to use, and he's set in place for you to use. But no, let's make complete carbon copies of those characters who are more appealing to our DEI requirements and therefore more fit for our vision of Star Wars, which they have no vision. So it's kind of funny. And they say they have no vision. They have no strict guidelines when it comes to making Star Wars. Yeah, well, we can tell. Yeah, so I am not excited for that series one bit. I'm actually quite scared. I have no idea how the hell that's going to turn out. I really don't. It's probably going to suck, but if they just... Well, that's not even true, because the guy who wrote Dark Lord of the Sith wrote books for the High Republic. So it's like now not even he's good. I can't be like, bring James Soule, have him do it. No, bro. Not even him. Charles Soule. What James Soule? Charles Soule. Yeah, I read his book. I think it was the first novel ever made under High Republic when it was first announced. And it sucked. So I don't know if it was him or if it was the stupid writer's room making him put all that crap in it. Who knows? But again, yikes. I wouldn't want him on anything else, unless he's just good with legacy characters and horrible at making his own, which would be very rare for Lucasfilm, but who knows? Maybe. Or maybe there was some other secret mastermind behind those Vader comics that is unknown, that needs to be known. Maybe. But if they have the same writing team as they did on Battle for Jakku and all that other shit, then it's gonna suck. Like, we already know. There are just things with the modern day entertainment industry that you just know before even indulging in it, it's gonna suck. Like, you don't even need, like, you don't even need to see it. You just know it's going to suck. And then you hear all your trusted folks talking about it. And it's like, oh, yeah, it sucked. I'm like, oh, shit, you know? Just like, I've seen a lot of the movies nominated for Best Picture this year at the Oscars. But I already, there's a few that I haven't seen and I already know that they're going to suck. I already know. I already know they are going to be horrible. Just off the descriptions of the film, reviews, and trailers. I already know. Like, I've gained that insight, and it's, like, accurate 90% of the time. It's actually crazy. Like, yeah. It's wild. Like, it really is. Like, with Star Wars, I knew Skeleton Crew was going to be, like, a who cares show. It was. Acolyte, knew it was going to suck. It sucked. For that one, I will say I held on a little more hope than usual because I just really didn't want them to ruin it. They did, obviously. Goodness gracious Lord. But yeah, that and God, like all this shit, dude. Like, I can tell from the trailers now. Like, Mando and Grogu's gonna be really fun and really cool. But whether or not it's going to be an enticing story, I don't know. But honestly, at this point, if it's fun, cool, and Star Wars-y, I will, like, please, just give that to me. Because I'd way rather have that than an attempt to making a good story and having that fail, You have to look at these writers, guys, with Star Wars now and go, let's pretend all these guys have no idea what they're doing. Right? So you have to look at them like that and then go, would we rather give someone who has no idea what they're doing a task to make a fun, entertaining thing that feels Star Wars-y or a deep story in the Star Wars universe? We would pick the fun Star Wars-y tale because that's way easier to write than a complex story, obviously. So you have to look at these guys like that. And once you do, it will be very surprising at how accurate you are predicting the quality of all these things. Like, really and truly. Like, AHSOKA Season 2 is really a wild card. Like, it could either be really, really impressively good, or it could be just horrible, or it could be mid, right? Like, Dave Filoni is such a wild card at this point. He didn't used to be when he was writing Clone Wars, but now he's just, like, such a wild card. Like, you never know what's going to come out of him at this point. You just don't. Like, you go from, Mando Season 2, his Ahsoka episode was amazing. Then you go to Ahsoka, and it's like, what are we doing? And in the first few episodes, it's just, like, ridiculous. And then you go to Tales of the Jedi, and it's, like, the best Disney Star Wars. It's like, I don't know what this guy's deal is. Like, he cannot just be consistent. And it's really confusing to me, because he seems like someone who, he should be consistent. He should be the most consistent there, because he directly worked with George for, like, 10 years on the Clone Wars or something. Probably a little less than that, but still, he directly worked and learned from George and practically shadowed George in writers' rooms and everything. So it's like, maybe it is controlled by Kathy and by Disney, and it could be. It very well could be, because Disney is the most dirty entertainment company in existence right now. Big studio. I'm sure there's a bunch of super dirty indie companies. Like A24, I'm pretty sure is, like, half demonic, but that's besides the point. Disney is the most screwed up big entertainment company in the world right now. So I would not be surprised if they're dipping their cheesy little fingers into everything and making the creators do things they don't want to do. I would not be surprised. And if that came out, then you know what? I'd be like, it hasn't been Dave. It's been Disney, right? But if that never comes out, then fair assumption is it's either Dave or Dave and Disney. And either way, it still involves Dave. You know, that's how you have to look at it. So, and it doesn't help that he's so high up in the company now where less people could really control him. Chief Creative Officer, like, really? Like, you can't, at that point, you cannot really. He's like he's an executive at Lucasfilm, guys. Like, he's not just a writer anymore, like how he was with Rebels. He's an executive member of Lucasfilm. You know, it's like, so I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what flipped in his head or how manipulated he got. You know, like, who knows? But yeah, I don't know what the deal is. With that said, that's my thoughts on AHSOKA Season 2 and the 2025, probably to 2030, Star Wars Flagship comic series. Not excited for Flagship comic series. I think it's going to fail. I'll read the first issue online, probably laugh at it, take a shit on it on here, and never go back to it again. AHSOKA Season 2 has potential to be great. Who knows if it will, right? Because Dave Filoni's a wild card, so we really don't know what the hell will happen with that. So, yeah, we'll see. So, thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, share, and I will see you in the next video. Till the next one, may the Force be with you always.